Botting is always going to be an ongoing problem in the game of RuneScape. This is simply shown by how long bots have been around. We're now reaching 20 plus years that bots have been a problem. Just about every time Jagex creates a method of getting rid of them, 2 more sprout up for every one that gets banned, and they circumvent all of Jagex's efforts. It really is a never-ending cat and mouse game. To tell you guys this story, I feel like we have to start from where it all began. RuneScape Classic. The first iteration of bots were simple. You would do a specific click pattern. Let's say there were 3 iron ore in a triangle pattern. You would click in those triangle patterns. The program would record the mouse movement and clicks based on the X and Y coordinates of the clicks, and it would just endlessly repeat that for however long you wanted it to. After working so hard on the game, Andrew Gower did not take kindly to this. This was giving players an unfair advantage and allowing them to power mine their levels without actually being in front of the screen and participate like normal players. So it garnered this reaction from Andrew Gower. To summarize this post, he says, "I've just uploaded this week's update. I was really hoping on getting a lot of cool and new interesting features out to you guys, but due to worrying about cheaters and password stealers, I've had to put that on the back burner and stop spending his time programming and trying to detect the cheating and stop that. To combat the password stealing and cheating, these are a few things he did. He added a button to email forgotten stolen passwords back to the owner. This is actually the first iteration of what we know as the recovery system nowadays. Changing password easier, there's now a new option available. A timeout to conversations to prevent people blocking shops, and added a code to detect which players are attempting to break the rules. I believe that last line is referring to botters and macroers. Around the period of 2001 to 2002, they actually had a global messaging system in-game that would say, hey, this person's trying to cheat, or this person is trying to abuse bugs, and it would tell everybody they got banned. It's pretty cool to see that. A lot of the early bot detection, as expected, was pretty primitive. They would teleport the suspected bots to them, Paul or Andrew, because those were some of the only people working on the game at this point, and they would try and converse with them and get to the bottom of things. This is probably a slow, arduous process that took a ton of time for very little reward. Bots were probably still spilling over due to the manual process of this. That is, until the next news post and subsequent update regarding botters and cheating on RuneScape Classic. To summarize, it says, it is clearly stated in our rules that using such software to automatically play the game for you and raise your stats for you is cheating. This will not be tolerated. It is not fair on the players who actually play the game honestly and get their levels fairly. Our new system is extremely efficient and accurate. In the last 24 hours alone, we have identified 2,000 players who have been cheating. We will also be able to identify all future offenders and will continue modifying and making improvements to our detection software. They go on to say, it is almost 100% certain that you will be banned or erased. Interestingly enough, in my research, this post is from 2007, but it is a list of stat-wiped people that used RuneBot, which is one of the first iterations of botting programs, and it's actually from 2001 to 2002, one of the first bot wipes. Let's take a quick look at how many players were included in this stat wipe / banning. For most cheaters out there, they thought this was the end of botting. They were all upset about it, how they couldn't cheat at their favorite game anymore. The final nail in the coffin was the fatigue system. The fatigue system was a system implemented by Jagex. Every time an NPC was killed, every time a resource was gathered, such as from woodcutting or mining, the fatigue percentage went up. Once it reached 100, players found they could no longer get XP until they clicked on a sleeping bag or slept in a bed around the world and entered this CAPTCHA code. This CAPTCHA code was not always the same and would be generated randomly. This made it hard for bot programmers to find a way around it, simply because the letters were always angled and they were always in a weird font, and they just didn't look normal. It was very hard for bot detection to pick up on what the text said. That is where our next element in the botting history comes in. Enter Jagex, very prominent member in the cheating scene when it came to RuneScape from 2001 to 2006. He was essentially the mastermind behind AutoRune, Scar, and most importantly for this section, Sleepwalker. Sleepwalker was essentially a program that allowed all these cheaters to connect with each other and enter CAPTCHAs for each other. If a person entered a CAPTCHA for someone else, they gained credit, and that credit could be used to have someone else enter the CAPTCHA when they were away from the computer. So basically, while some of the cheaters were at the computer, they would enter CAPTCHAs for other cheaters, and then when they went away from the credits that they earned, they would have other players enter their CAPTCHAs for them. Before we go any further, I would like to delve a little bit into Jagex, and I'm probably butchering the hell out of the pronunciation, and I don't care, because the guy was kind of a turd. Although to his credit, he never seemed to, spread viruses or malicious content when he shared his botting programs with other cheaters, so I guess there was a code of honor when it came to him. If there was a glitch or bug or botting program being spread around, you could almost guarantee around this time in Classic that this guy would have something to do with it. One of the programs I mentioned earlier that he created, AutoRune, was actually the culprit behind the pink party hat, which is now the purple party hat, going from the most expensive party hat in the game to the cheapest due to a duplication glitch that was facilitated through AutoRune. In fact, at the time, anything that was not stackable could be duplicated with AutoRune, which is the program he created. They used it to duplicate these party hats, Christmas crackers, and even dragon square shields due to their alchemy value. This created a long-lasting ripple effect on the economy, and not for the better. It negatively impacted the economy for years, which they seemed to take great pride in. Other YouTubers have gone into greater detail on this guy, so I'm not going to stick around too long on him, but essentially he kept up his cheating ways, but slowly stepped away from the cheating community leading into 2006. In 2006, Jagex actually threatened him with a lawsuit, threatened legal action on him, and that caused him to back away because at the time he had a kid on the way and he had this family, so he stepped away from cheating in 2006 and kind of faded from view. This iteration of bots, though, was very simple, usually dealt with XY coordinates, which Jagex battled by actually randomly shifting the X and Y coordinates on RuneScape Classic just to mess with the bots. The next iteration was detection based on color and look. It would be able to tell, for example, that rock is an iron ore based on the way it looks, and so on. Jagex's new detection system was slowly picking up steam and rapidly banning the botters, but just as soon as they would get banned, more would sprout up. It's like playing whack-a-mole or, slicing the head off a hydra and it grows, 2 more. The game wouldn't be closed due to botting, but 3 short years later, RuneScape 2, as we know it, would be released. What this meant is that over the years, RuneScape Classic was kind of left behind and the botters took over to where 95% of the player base was bots. They were kind of left to their own devices eventually, once RuneScape 2 picked up and gained full head of steam. So with RuneScape 2's release, these new fancy 3D graphics, it was all new and fresh, and the cheaters wanted a piece. The bot makers and leechers, as they're referred to, which are people who don't contribute bots or add anything programming wise, they simply just want to download and use the bots, wanted a piece of the pie. They wanted to exploit and gain wealth. They always are looking to exploit other people, exploit game mechanics, and gain wealth. That's all they care about. And this can be seen from most of the bot makers just selling their scripts, selling their programs to other people for real life wealth. These people didn't care about the integrity of the game. They didn't care what their cheating did to other people or did to the company. They're a bunch of turd bags. So on to RS2. Going into 2004, a lot of these people were still using AutoRune or modified versions of AutoRune. But at this point, Jagex had a team now, and their bot detection system was only getting better. But just as Jagex and their anti-cheating system was getting better, so were the cheaters. They would tweak and tweak their software and bypass the detection system for a short while, and this allowed them to overrun 2004 to 2006 RuneScape. A lot of these bots were just color bots, just stupid, simple bots that they could just get for free, because most of the people using them were just known as leechers. All they knew how to do was download and use the bot. They didn't necessarily know how to fix the bots, so they would go crying on the forums for someone to fix the bot or make tweaks to it for them. A lot of these color bots were flax bots, but because they were so highly reliant on color, players found a clever way to kill the bots and take their flax, or just kill them for fun. They would dress in green robes and dye their character's hair that light color blue that you see on the flax tips. This was actually the same color as the flax, and if one of those players stepped too close to the flax fields, the bots would try and click the player in order to pick them. And the player, because the flax field was in Sears Village, they would lure them to the giant bats just a little way over and just start killing them. Now Jagex had their shiny new bot detection system. They still had their old barbaric methods that they used from time to time where they would teleport to a player or teleport that player to them and confront them, which was always fun. But now Jagex had a new ally in the players. The players were now fully capable of killing certain bots based on whether they were a color bot or not and trying to just lure them into something that could kill them. They would also drop, like if a bot was killing green dragons, they would drop the hides to lure them away and just generally be a pest. This generally wasn't that effective though, as the bot would just go back to what it was doing, and the real player, because they're a real player, is going to eventually get bored. You could also consider PKers an ally at the time, killing green dragon bots. So now you had the players and Jagex trying to kill these bots and get them out of here, but it still wasn't enough. You kill one, 3 more sprout up. You kill one, it runs back endlessly because it's a bot. It doesn't care. It does not care. It can literally do this all day. And if you ban their accounts, they have no connection to them. They have no sentimental connection to these accounts. They're just gonna create a new one, slap the botting program on there, and do it again. Not to mention, even back then, they more than likely had 10 accounts that are level 3 on standby, ready to go. And now they weren't just doing, ore rocks and trees and green dragons. They had spread to Mortmere fungus, for example, pure essence, and much, much more. This trend followed throughout the next few years, players getting annoyed and angry that botters were taking all the resources and just ruining the game. Jagex was also getting frustrated because for every one they banned, more would just sprout up endlessly. Players were getting frustrated though, and with their inability to see from Jagex's side or point of view, they pointed the finger at Jagex and were like, what are you guys gonna do about this? You're doing nothing. You say you're doing all this stuff. You say you report them, but nothing happens. I report them, and I see the same ones, the next day, a week later. Nothing is happening to them. So Jagex needed a public way of somehow showing, hey, we're trying to do something about this. Take a look at what we're doing. Look at this bot. It's going to get banned, and make it public somehow. The beginning of this solution was seen October 25th, 2011, and it was known as Bot Nuking Day. This is the first one ever. It would be an attempt to prevent reflection and injection bots from functioning. Jagex believed this was 98% of the type of all bots running at this time. They had deviated away from the coordinate clicker bots and the color bots because those were easily detectable macros that were getting banned too frequently. I believe this video right here does a excellent job at just looking at the bots and seeing a before and after of how many were eliminated. All credit to this guy. I will put his YouTube name up on the screen because this was extremely helpful when I was researching. Although I don't think he makes videos anymore, but just take a look at this. This is the Living Rock Caverns in 2011. One of the best places where you can mine gold, ore, and coal due to the AFK ability of it at the time. It's insane. There's probably hundreds of people on the left and maybe, a handful after the fact. This is Soul Wars, which, interestingly enough, is now in old school as well. You can see them with the Soul Wars capes and stuff. Yeah, this is the, central areas on Soul Wars of each respective team. That's insane. You can see the little, October little Reaper for the Halloween event appearing too. This is Sorceress's Garden, the little thieving minigame in Alcarid. Goodness, this is my first time watching it as well. That's totally insane. These are summoning or runecrafting bots at Castle Wars. They teleport in with the Ring of Dueling. There might be a few other variants too, but I believe they're summoning or runecrafting, one of the two. Probably doing orbs too and stuff. These are Turos, which I forgot how weird these looked back then, around 2011 with the weird Runescape HD. It's absolutely crazy. Kind of sad though. So yeah, they're bots, but it's like, you look at old school's player numbers, it's like how many of those are actual players and how many of them are bots. It's kind of insane to think about, Drainer Willows, I believe. It just looks a little bit different. I don't know what's with the onion patch. in the distance. I guess they added that. This is around a time I really didn't play. This looks to be Drainer. This is Tazar. I guess they were trying to kill those for combat XP and obsidian drops. Look how many pile onto one Tazar. I didn't even know these bots were a thing back then. But yeah, I mean, Jagex at this time, and probably even today, is actively attempting to just eradicate them. It's just, if you look at the list, like when I was doing my research, this is the U's behind Barat Castle, by the way. But when I was doing my research, I just type in RuneScape bot on like one of my first searches, and there's like 10 websites that instantly come up just immediately where you can just download bots. Absolutely crazy. So yeah, you can see a stark contrast before and after, and I'll leave it at that because the video drags on a little bit longer. So what is injection and reflection? What is that? Code injection is exploiting a computer bug that is caused by processing invalid data. The injection is used by an attacker, which would be the programmers of the bots, to introduce code into a vulnerable computer program and change the course of execution. Basically, to put it in layman's terms, the injection bots were inputting their own custom code into the RuneScape client, modifying the client code during the load time, allowing them to read the game state, get notified of any changes to the state, and modify the actual client's behavior. The reflection bots were much harder to detect because they didn't inject any code. Reflection bots were seen as much more powerful than your typical color bots. And of course, after the bot nuke update, you had botting players and some other players that were probably just there for the spectacle of it, and World 62 and Falador were rioting and crying about their bots. But I say just let them keep crying. It's annoying. So even later in the year, on November 9th, 2011, iBot was one of the biggest bot websites on the internet at that point. They were providing players with hundreds and hundreds of different bots and were just a thorn in Jagex's side, and they finally had enough. They proceeded with a lawsuit and went in to sue iBot. The case ended on January 27th of 2012 with Jagex being victorious on all counts. iBot even had to make a statement on their website and in general saying they're not going to go near Jagex or their game anymore. If they did, they would have to pay Jagex at least a $1 million fine if they were caught doing anything. So they were effectively shut down. One of the biggest bot suppliers was shut down. This was a great victory for Jagex, but it wasn't over yet. Bot nuking and lawsuits were just the beginning for Jagex, though. In 2012, after the suit ended, they weren't done. They needed to keep pushing this and really crack down these bots. So, enter 2012 Judgment Day for bots. It even came with a nifty trailer. Check it out.
Bots are not welcome at all in RuneScape, and when it comes to Bot Judgment Day, justice is swift and very final. Soon in RuneScape, you'll be able to dispatch bots to bot heaven or hell yourself, thanks to Botany Bay.
By player characters, and it can accurately detect bot software being used within the game. So for the first time ever, we're able to track what every single player is doing.
It would involve a dragon claw pointing and picking up bots and teleporting them to this circular location with a viewing area around where players could throw rotten tomatoes and talk trash to the suspected botters. This became a public spectacle with hundreds of players wanting to get a glimpse of the bots and make fun of them. Rightfully so. So now they had a better reputation with the community where bots were concerned. At this point, they had eliminated iBot as well as RS Buddy, which is now known as OS Buddy, which is actually a client that rivals RuneLite. The more you know, right? They used to be involved with writing scripts and providing bots to people. RS Buddy did. And at this point in 2012 to 2013, they had already dealt with probably up to 100,000 bots, if not more. And things were finally starting to look up for Jagex. The bot numbers were way down. Player base seemed happy. Well, they were happy as far as the bot problem was concerned, I'll just say that around this time. In addition to this, Bot Watch, which was the name of Jagex's bot detection system around this time, received a massive update and a major overhaul to the way it worked. It was able to profile accounts and determine whether or not they were botting based on their stats, among other factors. It also had knowledge of profiles, so think of like the typical Zora bot, right? It's going to have pretty low stats, maybe 50-something agility, some decent mage and range. This bot detection software would see that essentially and create a profile for, hey, this is a Zulrah bot, and then it would become more and more efficient at catching that type of bot. Now imagine that, only it knows of a multitude of other bots, mining bots, smithing bots. Any bot you could probably think of, BotWatch probably knows of it and has a profile for it. This can be seen in modern day on RuneLite with the plugin Bot Detector. While the RuneLite plugin and BotWatch aren't officially related, I could see the RuneLite plugin being a lesser version of BotWatch. It has a percentage. If you've ever used it, you know what I'm talking about. You can like examine a player, and based on their stats, it'll be like, oh, they're 98% a mining bot. They're 57% a Zulrah bot. You get the point. And as far as RS3 is concerned, Evolution of Combat hit. There was updates to the combat across the board, which meant updates to all the equipment. And because of the lessening player base, the gold was devalued. And in my belief, the gold being devalued due to the lack of players killed botting to a certain extent, and also killed gold farming to a certain extent as well. This can be seen if you actually go on RS3. I played an Iron Man a few years back on RS3 and I saw very little bots. They only bought very specific things such as Elite Dungeon 3. They bought Cursed Energy. They bought very specific things, and the problem isn't as rampant as it is on Old School. Therefore, it is less noticeable. And that's not to say that the RS3 team just does a better job of managing bots than Old School. I believe it's the devalued currency and the more complex combat system the RS3 currently employs. Allow me to explain. Old School, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, is the better game, but that's also due to my nostalgia and bias. In saying that though, hopefully we can objectively look at both games and just side by side determine that Old School is the more simple game. That's how it is. There are little intricate things that are hard to pull off, you know, player flicking, one ticking. There's little intricacies that are very hard. I'm not taking anything away, but on the surface level, Old School is more simple, which in my opinion makes it easier to bot and to write bots for. On top of this, the gold value is way, way, way more than RS3. These factors, along with the occasional Twitch Prime membership that used to happen, as well as a few other factors, make the Old School bot problem worse than it is on RS3. Look at this little turd, don't you just want to beat the shit out of him? Just has a punchable face. Old School has seen its challenges when it comes to bots, but for now, I believe it's somewhat under control. There are some at the Nightmare, as well as a few other in-game things, and that just shows how far bots have really come. They literally go from just identifying by color and getting screwed over by some noob in green robes to being able to do some of the hardest content in the game. Within the next few years, they're probably going to seamlessly be able to do efficient theater of blood and things like that. I hope not, but we'll see in the coming years. Jagex has also learned from the past to a certain extent about the public display of bot busting, and they continued that trend pretty much when Old School opened, and up until now you'll occasionally see bot busting streams, and they're always a treat to watch. I think they need to maintain this trend to keep the goodwill of the community when it comes to the bot problem. Most of the players you see at Revenant still, the few that are, and Nightmare, and a few other places as well, some of those aren't even bots, they're gold farmers, which are people from third world countries just farming gold in order to sell for real life money, because their economy over there is so screwed. But other than in-game areas and a few obscure areas, the bots are nothing compared to what they used to be, and I hope we keep it that way and continue to crack down on them. That's about it for me, guys. This is RS Historian, checking out. I'll see ya. Apparently there's even a botting to max series. Look at this dumb, smug butthole freaking thumbnail. Look at that. He's got like a blunt in his mouth. Get out of here, man.